Hello everyone, and welcome to the first FM24 tactic that I've made since FM24 came out. I'm still looking to redo the Chavi tactic that I released for FM23, just at the latter stage of FM23 cycle. But this is a sort of a different one, which is I wouldn't necessarily say it's based on any particular philosophy. Obviously, I really like the idea of trying to create patterns of play in certain areas of the pitch, and particularly when you are building up, that you are creating a box midfield of some sorts, or that you're moving players around in certain positions to create space otherwhere, and at the same time create some overloads, both qualitatives and quantitatives. So that's sort of the style of play here. It's a bit more, it's less possession based than what I usually do, and more pass into space and some quick progressive passes. But it plays really well, and as you can see, first season with Everton, which is my favourite club, by the way. Shame about the point deduction, but anyway, moving on. We managed to finish second in the first season, only 3 points behind City. And obviously, some of the bigger clubs performed, terribly. You've got Liverpool, at 6th place, and you've got Newcastle down at 10th. So it's Brighton as well, who's got a really quality side in FM24, also down there. And I mean, Crystal Palace got relegated. But yeah, only 4 defeats all the way to the big sides, unfortunately. Obviously, with the score Everton have got in the game, it's quite hard, I'd say. But yeah, I'm not too upset with these kind of losses, considering 3 of them were away to Chelsea, United and City. And then obviously a bad loss, Arsenal. I think I got a man send off early and we got battered, but they are also really, really good teams. Had some unfortunate draws as well. A lot of them came in the extra time, 98th minute, etc., stuff like that, particularly against City. So some unfortunate draws as well. Losses I can't complain too much about. Wins, we've had some absolute massive wins during the season. Let me just pull up the schedule here before we go into the tactic itself. Obviously, we lost away here to City, but other than that, it's been 2-0, 3-0, 3-0, 4-0, 3-1 here, 3-0, 5-0, 3-1, 1-0, 3-0, 4-2, 3-0. So there's a lot of big sort of wins, and I think we had here West Ham 8-1, 5-2 Luton away at Liverpool, winning 3-1, 4-0 home at Brentford, 4-3 at Villa. So it's I think I could still probably tweak it a little bit in terms of the defensive side of the game. But yeah, also win at Wolves here 5-0, and Arsenal beat them 3-2. So all in all, it's been really, really good. Stats wise, City dominate just about anything here. But goals, we managed to get 97 goals, where only 10 of them actually from corners. And I think corners, if you get a near post thing going in FM24, it's quite strong. But City managed to do more goals, and even Newcastle managed to do the same amount of corner goals. So it's not like there's been a broken corner tactic used or anything, because most of the teams are having the same sort of numbers in terms of corner goals. So 87 goals from open play, obviously plus the penalties. But yeah, decently well against shots against as well. 5th, could be better, but I think only 193 against City. That is just insane numbers, I think. Shots for, we come in 3rd, just behind United. Possession wise, it's not per se a possession tactic, but it does get some passes in and some decent possession. I think getting 7th in the Prem is quite good. Dribbles, it don't really do dribbles much, or well, it's not intended, but we're only 14th there. Fewest conceded, we're second. We conceded 35 goals, which is, I think it's okay. I'd definitely like to be around the 20-25 mark, but I think 97 goals, 35 conceded for Everton, who are supposed to finish 13th. In at the start of FM24, I think that's quite good. Also, second most clean sheets. Just quickly, if we go and I think team detailed, I am pretty sure if we have a look at non-penalty expected goals, we're first. Goals per game, got the most. Non-penalty expected goals as well. Expected goals for top. Expected goals per 90. Also doing pretty well there, topping that. Crosses completed, we're first. And chances created is the one I was looking for. So we've created the most chances in the league above City, which I think is proof that this tactic is actually quite good. Also fifth, top 5 in final and third passes for. So it's pretty good. Also defensively pretty solid. I mean, 17th in expected goals against. Is pretty good. I think passes attempted against, top 8 could be better again. The final third passes against is only third, and that's because I think in the beginning of the season I actually played with a mid block and I switched to sort of a higher press later in the season. So teams might be building up a bit more, and that's perhaps why we're only top 8 in the passes completed against, whereas the final third passes against is we're top 3 by a few passes. Quick player stats. Calvert-Lewin 28 goals, missing out to Erling Haaland 36 goals. I mean, it's quite difficult to compete with, I think, in terms of that. Lots of assists for Dwight McNeil on the left wing and James Garner, who's playing the Segunda Volante. So I think that's really good. Nathan Patterson chiming in with a few as well. I think Danjuma, who I used for 22 games, scored 12 goals from his number 10 position, so that's quite good. And Dwight McNeil with 10 goals as well. So double-digit goals and assists for Dwight McNeil was quite pleasing to see. Quick look at the data hop before we move into the tactic. Just to show you the XG table that we were actually expected to finish in terms of our points where we finished, and which is good. It means that the tactic hasn't just overperformed and it's perhaps a one-off season or it's a bit lucky. It proves that it's actually been quite good. And if we're looking at something like let's just have a look here. Goal output, high non-penalty expected goals, strong defending, and general performance, 2.55 goals per game. We've conceded a little bit more than I want to, but I think generally, as a rule of thumb, if you're below about 1 goal conceded per game, you're going to do quite well, I think. So that's pleasing, obviously, to see. Pitch tilt, which is an interesting one, I find. We're in good company in the bottom right corner here. So let's go into the tactic itself, and it is a 4-2-3-1, and we're trying to play around with the positional play that they've sort of introduced here in FM24. So the Volante has got a very free role to sort of go into these areas. And I've specifically asked him to move into channels because then he'll end up sort of here and have a lot of interplay with both the winger McNeil, who's going to be keeping the width at all times, and the shadow striker in the middle, who's going to be actually, I think that's down to a lot of the positional play that's come in. That if Calvert-Lewin goes sort of out here, the shadow striker will move over here, so you sort of get You get a box midfield either with the shadow striker in here, or the and the volante could move up here, and then you've got the inverted fullback coming in here next to the number 6, the ball winning midfielder. So either you make a box in the middle with the shadow striker, or sometimes even if the volante is up in this half space on the left hand side, and you have the, let me just put that back on. No, I can't remember, it was that. There we go. Then sometimes the attacking forward, or the number 9, can drop down here and help with play and create that box again, and then the shadow strike would make that move forward. So there's a lot of interchanging and positioning, and then obviously you've got the inside forward here making some of these sort of runs, but also sometimes coming down here to collect. And then the shadow strike can move out here, and the fullback can move up to these positions. So there's a lot of sort of interchanging of the positions, which is really great. And it's not like I've not used a lot of play instructions. Inverted impact to only shoot less often. Nothing on the defenders really. The fullback's got something. I like him to sort of not necessarily stay completely wide when we're building up, but sit a little bit narrow, but then create the width once the inside forward comes inside, and you get sort of a build up that's like a wide 2-3 4-1 ish. So that's kind of what we're aiming for. Winger, she's got cross aim centre. I mean, we've got Cavaloon, who's got great physicals. And it's a great header, so it's about getting the ball into where he's at. The inside forward, just asked him to sit narrow. Shadow striker, no extra instructions, and only roam from position for the advanced forward. Nothing else on the player roles. So that it's very simplistic in that it's not overly complicated. In terms of in possession, we go fairly wide width. We have a shorter passing direction and slightly higher tempo. Find that works pretty well for most of the time. If I'm finding that I'm lacking a bit of possession, I would either drop the tempo down to standard and perhaps take pass into space. If we're not connecting on those passes, I'll take them off. Be more expressive, just to sort of enhance that interchangeability that we were talking about before, and obviously work ball into box because we don't want to force things too much. Now, I really like the combination of having underlap on one side and then overlap on the other side, because it helps with the sort of unpredictability of how you are trying to attempt to penetrate the opponent's defence. And obviously, since we've got a winger who's holding the width on the left, we kind of want to have him hold up the ball for either the shadow strike or predominantly the secondo volante to come into that half space and then get the ball. And I mean, James Garner scored about 6 goals, and it feels like all of them were like 25-yard shots or inside the box. So the secondo volante just makes some really good runs. And it's definitely, I think, key to this tactic working as well as it has. And then overlap on the right. Obviously, we've got the fullback coming when the inside forward goes into the middle. The overlap comes on the right. So I like that sort of mix of those two. In transition, nothing out of the ordinary. Counter press, counter, distribute to centre backs. Nothing out of the ordinary. In terms of defensive shape, this is what I switched to at the end, just to try and see if that worked better. In the beginning of the season, I actually did a mid-block with a much higher defensive line to sort of compress the space in between the lines to see how that worked. And I believe actually I ran with trap outside for some time as well. But I think either this... you can actually drop it down to slightly more often if you want to. But if you do, I find more often to be better than sort of much more often. It's a bit more balanced, I find. But yeah, I think mid-block, much higher defensive line seem to work pretty well. Either that or high press and then a higher defensive line is what worked best for me. And the tactic's not named the Xavi tactic this time around. That's just the basis I made it this tactic out from. Yeah, I mean, it plays really well. I think first season, second place for Everton, with a goal difference of 62 and only losing 4 games is pretty good. I'll definitely try out on different leagues and perhaps with like better teams or underdog teams. Now Everton were, I think, media prediction was 13th, and obviously they've got no money in the beginning. I got to loan Kjærgaard and Ibrahim Diaz from Real Madrid outside the loans I already had, because we don't really have any money. So it's basically the same squad that you start with that I've been using for the majority of the season. You can see Kjærgaard's only had 15 appearances, where 3 of them were substitute, and Ibrahim Diaz at 19, right? So they've obviously come in and played as much as they could, but it's a tough start this year around, I think, for Everton. They don't really have, any finances to play around with, and they've only really got an 11 that's good. So when the games come thick and thin, it can be a bit hard to balance it because you don't really have any depth in the squad, and that's perhaps also why I didn't really have like a really long run in either the Carabao Cup or the FA Cup, because it's hard to rotate the players properly, and I had a good run in the Prem, so that's where I sort of put my focus in. But yeah, I don't think there's much more to say other than thank you for joining me for this tactic. I'll try and get the work on the Xavi tactic that I came up with for FM24, because that worked wonders, and I really want to recreate it here, especially with the new inverted fullback role, which was what I was trying to recreate in the other tactic. So, anyways, please follow for more and leave a like if you want, or a comment. I enjoy reading them. So yeah, thank you so much.